All right, welcome everybody to tonight's Committee of the Whole meeting. It is Tuesday, August 18th at 6:30 p.m. Can I get a roll call?
Finkler.
Here.
Sorry, let's start that over again. Finkler.
Here.
Fuller.
Here.
Hammer. Here. Lawson.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Rolke.
Here.
Rosted.
Here.
All right, and the meeting has been posted and noticed.
It has.
All right, perfect. And I'll be looking for approval of the agenda, but we would like to move number 1 before public comment so we don't keep Mike here too long.
So move.
I'll second.
All right, we got a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, agenda approved. So the first item is contract extension presentation by Mike Peters, President and CEO of WPPI Energy.
Could you change the monitors to number 4, please? I have a quick introduction here.
First off, I'd like to,
Mike, I have an introduction for you if you'd like.
yeah, go ahead, please, while I
Okay.
figure out how to make this. All right, good. Go ahead, Randy, sorry.
No? So the council is aware that the city of Columbus is an energy independent municipality, but some of the council might not fully understand how this is possible and how this type of system works. The city of Columbus is part of a joint action agency that is similar in ways to a co-op. Columbus, along with 50 other municipalities in Wisconsin, Upper Michigan, and Northeast Iowa, is part of an intergovernmental organization that pools our resources to generate or buy wholesale electricity, manage financial risks, and share technical services more cheaply and reliably than what would be possible either on our own or being a customer of a mega powerful private power industry, such as We Energies. Each municipality within the Joint Action Agency keeps local control over our own distribution systems and retail operations. The 51-member agency is able to perform these monumental tasks through the ownership of WPPI Energy, the member-owned regional power company and Joint Action Agency headquarters. Along with managing our pooled resources, WPPI purchases and coordinates a diverse, competitive, and responsible power supply portfolio for its members, and also represents the collective interests of our public power community with state and federal agency policymakers. You'll likely know that I sit on the board of directors for WPPI, as well as serving on the Finance and Audit Committee. And our utility business manager, Michelle Kaltenberger, serves on the Member Services Advisory Group. Soon, I will be bringing forth a new business item to the Utility Commission, asking them to recommend to the council that the City of Columbus extend our contract with WPPI. And I have asked that the president of WPPI, Mr. Mike Peters, to present to the council the necessity and value of a contract extension. Mr. Peters is president and CEO of WPPI and is responsible for the leadership, strategic direction, and day-to-day operations. He's also our key representative in advocating to the state and federal lawmakers on behalf of public power. In order to maximize our voice to state and federal lawmakers and compete with the mega private utilities, our agency is also a member of the American Public Power Association, or APPA. That represents approximately 2,000 other energy independent municipalities across the country. Along with serving as the president and CEO of WPPI, Mike is now the board chair of the American Public Power Association. This past July, I was able to attend the APPA National Conference in Boston, where the key event was Mike taking the helm of this important organization, and all of us there, from our humble little group in Wisconsin, felt proud of Mike's achievement and encouraged by such strong representation we now have nationally. So, please welcome Mr. Peters as he presents to the council the importance of a contract extension. Mike?
Randy, my mom would be proud. So, if you could flip past that slide, thank you. Yeah, no, I appreciate the comments, Randy, and we appreciate the partnership we have with Columbus Utility and our 50 other member utilities. You are part of a bigger organization that brings economies of scale that you could not get on your own. If you want to go to the next slide. First and foremost, we are a not-for-profit member-owned, member-controlled utility that provides services, power supply, and advocacy to our member communities. Our focus is on serving the member communities. It's not earning a profit. It's basically meeting your needs. You're a relatively small municipal utility, but through WPPI, you have access to a power supply portfolio that is actually as diversified, if not more so, than the large investor-owned utilities in this area. You guys focus on that safe, reliable service, and we're your backroom support. We are not the utility. You're the utility for the city. We're here to support the member communities. And we do that through the contract arrangements that we have with our members. And I'm here today to talk about our current contract and why we're asking our members to extend that contract. So first and foremost, as I said, our focus is on the member community. We're here to serve you. It's not the other way around. We wouldn't exist but for the member communities. Joe's been involved with our organization for decades and understands the relationship and the value that WPPI brings to the table. But our mission and vision statement focuses on the members, not WPPI. On to the next slide. Probably first and foremost, the concern is, are we cost competitive? Are we reliability is critical. How do you compare from a cost standpoint? This shows our average cost going back to 2012. And you can see that over that period of time, even in today's dollars, it's about the same as it was in 2012 on an average power cost basis. If you looked at it based on adjusted for inflation, we're obviously lower than what we would have been in 2012. The other thing that you can see here is it's been pretty stable. We've had a little up and down here and there, but for the most part, it's been a very stable power supply cost. That means your customers can pretty much, their bills are only going to fluctuate based on their usage, not our costs going up significantly from year to year. And our costs paired with the member community's costs, as shows on this next slide, makes our member communities, Columbus included, some of the lowest cost utility providers in the region. And this compares our members' average cost to all the investor-owned utilities, the larger electric cooperatives, and some other organizations like ours in the region. And you can see that our members stack up extremely well. On the next slide, one of the things that we're looking at going forward is we do need to add some resources to our portfolio. And we have a contract with our members that's called an R requirements contract. You sign an agreement that you'll buy all of your power from us, and we're obligated to provide all your needs, whatever that is. If you had a large customer show up in your city, we would be there to provide that service through you to that customer. And by pooling all the resources together, we're able to bring about a pretty cost-effective portfolio that you would not be able to do on your own. That contract provides the ability for us to go out and issue debt. So if we issue debt, we have to be able to show the investor community, those that are buying our bonds, that we can pay that debt back. And we do that by pointing to the contract that we have with our members. When the city goes and issue debt, you don't have to show anybody a contract. You're the city. You have taxpayers or you have electric customers. It's just inherent in your organization. We don't have that except for the relationship we have with our utility members. And so that contract shows the investor community we have a relationship with the member utility, who in turn has a relationship with the customers. They pay their bill, the members pay our bill, we pay the debt for whatever assets we buy. And so that contract is really the backbone that allows us to finance large projects. We also enter into longer term and larger wholesale power purchase agreements. Point Beach Nuclear is a good example. That's a contract that goes out to the year 2053. So we get about 20% of our energy from the nuclear plant at Point Beach. We were only able to enter into that large-scale contract because of the contract relationship we have with our members. Same with our renewable contracts. We have renewable contracts that go out into the 2040s. Again, we have the relationship with the members that the counterparty, whether it's the owner of Point Beach Nuclear or a renewable developer, can say, yep, WPPI can pay the bill because they have a contract with their member communities and their customers pay their bill. As we go forward, this shows what is needed in our portfolio to meet our community's electric load. And the way these bars, each bar is, each year shows our total peak load when you add all of the members together. You guys are what, 15 megawatt load about? Little over. A little bit of growth. That's excellent. We're about 1,100 megawatts when you add all the members together. So you can see, although you're a relatively small member, you have economies of scale through us. That dark part is what we have in our portfolio. We either own a generation asset or we have a long-term contract that backs it up. The dotted part on the top of each bar is what we need to add to our portfolio for each of those given years. We have a pretty manageable need, except when you start getting out into 2033, it starts to open up. And by the time you get to 2035, we need to add a roughly 350 to 400 megawatts of new generation. That's a lot. We're 1,100 megawatts, and so 400 is a pretty big amount. If we were to build a new resource today, if we decided today that we were going to build a new generation resource, it could be 7 to 9 years before we'd actually be able to generate electricity. The lead times to build a new resource have extended, and the cost has gone up. And so we're doing planning that would impact our portfolio going out into the 2030s. Part of this graph actually includes a new generation resource that we're partnering with some other utilities that's going to come online late next year, which we would need at least 30 years to do the financing for that. Another area where we're seeing a lot of growth across the region is in transmission lines. ATC, the American Transmission Company, if you would have looked back 4 years ago, each year they publish a 10-year projection of how much transmission they're going to build. 3 or 4 years ago, it was about $4 billion in new transmission. Today, looking forward 10 years, it's about $15 billion. How does that impact us? We use the transmission system to deliver energy to our member communities. All the utilities, investor-owned utility, cooperatives, municipals, we all pay the same rate. It's a single rate. The only thing that changes from a cost standpoint is what does our load look like compared to the others. We all pay the same rate. However, as an owner, we own about 6.7% of ATC. When we have an ownership interest in ATC, we get an investment return on that asset. And that our investment return goes to lower the electric bills that we charge our member communities. Right now, our power costs are 4% lower than what they would be otherwise because of the ATC investment. Up until last year, we were able to meet the capital requirements that ATC has in our regular rates. So when ATC builds a new transmission, they pay for it in two ways up front. They either borrow money, issue debt, or they get the money, they get a capital contribution, an equity investment from their owners. It's about 50-50, 50% debt, 50% equity, and that equity comes from the owners of ATC. They send us a quarterly capital call saying, this is your percentage share of our capital needs for this next cycle. And we make that capital contribution to maintain our ownership interest. Up until, as I said, 2025, we could meet that capital call out of our normal rates. We didn't have to inflate rates anything over what we would normally charge. That's no longer possible. In 2026, the capital calls exceeded $25 million for us, and they're going to be in excess of $30 million for a foreseeable future. So for 26 and 27, we borrowed money to pay our percentage of the capital calls. It's still a overall benefit. The cost for us to borrow debt is significantly less than the return we get back from ATC. So it's still a cash positive impact, and it reduces our rates. Right now, we get about 14 million a year in return. By 2030, that's going to ramp up to about 30 million a year in return. So it's going to have a significant impact on our electric rates, holding them down from what they would otherwise be. But we need to be able to issue long-term debt to do that. It's very similar to if you bought a new house and you did a 15-year mortgage or a 30-year mortgage. That 15-year mortgage, it might save you a few dollars on the interest rate of the total interest cost, but you're going to pay a lot more each month. If you did a 30-year mortgage, your monthly payment is lower. It's the same concept for us. If we do 30-year debt, which is standard in the industry for long-term assets, we're going to have a lower monthly or a lower annual debt service charge. It also aligns better with the life of the asset. you have customers that come and go. Unlike your house or a private business, we don't necessarily need to pay off our debt and be debt-free. We want to spread the debt across all the customers that's going to come into our system over the next 30 to 40 years. And so by issuing debt, we're able to manage who pays for the cost. If we collected all of the cost up front, your current customers would pay for an asset that's going to last 50 years. They're not going to get the benefit of that. But by issuing debt, we spread that out. So another need to extend our contract from the current period is the need to continue to meet our capital calls. On the next slide, this isn't the first time we've done this. We've done this since our beginning. The last time we extended our contract was in 2015. And within the next 2 years after that extension, we were able to make some strategic decisions that benefited our membership. We were able to invest in some new transmission lines, which reduced our rates to members. We were able to enter into a large wind contract that goes out into the 2040s. And we entered into a solar contract with NextEra Energy that is 100 megawatt. At the time we announced it, it was the largest solar project in the state of Wisconsin. There are now some that are larger, but for our portfolio, it's a really nice project. That goes out into the 2040s. And so both of those renewable contracts and the investment in transmission were made possible by the extension that we did in 2015. And we're looking to do the same thing again. It was an 18-year extension in 2015 that took our contract out to 2055. Now, I understand 2055 is a long time. We're asking our members to add 18 years to that existing contract that would allow us to do a number of things. If you go on to the next slide. As I said, we're looking at investing in new generation, which would go out past 2055. We're looking at investing in transmission assets, both through American Transmission Company, as I talked about, the capital calls that we would need to meet in the next 4 or 5 years, as well as making investment in direct ownership of transmission. We're also looking at doing an energy prepaid transactions, working with a large financial institution like we're going to work with RBC, similar to JP Morgan or a large bank, but we can, working with them, get a reduction by prepaying power cost through an issuance that they would do. It was basically an arbitrage between our tax exempt status and their taxable status, and they would share the savings with us, which would allow us to reduce some of our power cost components. And again, that would flow directly back to our member communities. Everything we do, we look at, can this reduce our cost to members from what they would otherwise be? But to do that, we need a longer term contract than what we currently have. So as I said, we're looking at investing in new generation resources. We're looking at the energy prepaid transactions, which could bring about some pretty immediate savings. And we're also looking at investing in transmission on that next slide. And so what we're asking our members to do, on that next slide, we talk about the 18-year extension. So it would take our current agreement out to 2073. I don't even know if I'll be walking the face of the earth in 2073, and I recognize that. But just like your city makes long-term decisions that are going to far outlast, you and others, if you decide to invest in a new water tower or invest in a new city building, that's a 50, 60, 70-year decision. You all make those kinds of decisions all the time. It's no different for us. But for us to make those kinds of decisions, we have to have in place that contract that we have with our membership. And so we're asking our members to do another 18-year extension on the current contract. We are making these kind of presentations to our member communities. As Randy said, we have 51 members across our entire footprint, and we're coming out to them, making these presentations. We probably have 15 members that have already taken action to extend. Each member is a little different on how they do their analysis or do their how they process their requests. But I've greatly respected the partnership that we have with Columbus, and I hope we're able to continue that through the agreement that we have. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. But before you do that, two things. One, thank you for allowing Randy to serve on our Finance and Audit Committee. We are member-led, member-organized, member-focused, And by having folks like Randy serve on our committees and give us direction on how we should manage your resources, it's very important that that's how we maintain that connection. And then I also want to congratulate Joe. Each year at our annual meeting, which is coming up in September, we recognize, we have various award recipients, and Joe's going to receive a Community Service Award. We look at it across our 51 members, and Joe's a perfect example who's dedicated 45 plus years to your community, and that's benefited you, it's benefited WPPI, and we'll be recognizing Joe for all those years of service. So congrats and thank you. So happy to, yep. Happy to answer any questions you have about the request. You have some experts in the room with Randy and with your mayor about WPPI, but happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Any questions? All right, looks like we're good. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for the time. Again, look forward to continuing the partnership. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, next, public comment. All right, Jake Hartman, and just a reminder to stick to 3 minutes and state your name and address.
Jake Hartman, 143 North Water Street. Thank you for having me this evening. I appreciate your time. Again, Jake Hartman, I hold degrees in IT networking, cybersecurity. I've been in leadership roles for about 15 years, and I'm a member of the Wisconsin Cyber Response Team. I have a darn good understanding of data, how data flows, and how it's managed. With that, I have a great passion about the use of flock and ALPR cameras. Now, when you approach this topic, the first thing that always comes your way is you're anti-police, you're anti-law enforcement. And that is not my position. My position is the cameras have a place. To me, it looks like it's half, maybe a full officer a year. And that makes sense to me. Alzheimer's patients, silver alerts, kidnappings, warrants, things like that. Totally get that. That works for me. I understand that. But I do have some concerns about not having a well-defined policy. We have some broad tech policies which I've looked at, which is normal. I get that. That covers email use of devices, things like that, which most state, local, county, areas or organizations have those things. I work with communities like that all the time with the cyber response team, so I understand that. But what bothers me the most about this, again, is that there's no defined policy. There is no defined policy. All I'm looking for 4 to 5 months, I've asked for a well-defined policy. I've started this off. I could talk to every person I could talk to. I met with the mayor. I've been with the chief, which, Chief, I know we don't agree on this, but I still appreciate what you do and what your team does here. I know you've been here a long time. So my concerns are this. The mayor, when I had a discussion with the mayor respectfully referred to this as surveillance. Surveillance to me is a warrant. There's a warrant involved in doing surveillance, right? FBI, CIA, local police department, whoever. There's a warrant. We don't have warrants. In Flock, we are doing warrantless searches. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some searches that have warrants. I'm sure there are. But right now, there are warrantless searches happening all across the nation, not just us, okay? The next thing, my discussion with the mayor, he compared this to Flock to Ring doorbell cameras, cell phones, and laptops. That is incorrect. You have to have a warrant to pull my cell phone data, my laptop, my Ring camera. I can willingly give it to you, but you have to have a warrant. So you cannot compare that, Joe. Respectfully, you cannot compare it to that. Okay, so 30 seconds. So what I would say is this. We need a well-defined policy, and really the only way to do this is to have a warrant for every search, especially any searches, which are thousands of searches coming into our cameras every day. Well, I would say every week. That's a false statement. There needs to be a warrant. There needs to be a well-defined policy. Right now, officers can search with fake cases. They can hide searches in unrelated cases, and they can leave vague comments to do the searches. All I'm asking you for is a policy. That's it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Brooke Andler, you're next. Oh, careful.
Brooke Antler, 1015 Park Avenue, right next to the Park Pavilion. Just here to, I wish I would have had Randy prepare a nice intro for me as well. But we're here for the Park Pavilion and the volume, the lack of control, a lot of weekends. We're just concerned they have both sides of the streets here today, so, and a little bit farther down. But yeah, it's getting old real quick. To the point where my wife wants to move. So, we'd appreciate anything you guys can do to help. I know there is a new policy or contract being looked at, but yeah, if the volume could really be addressed, it'd be great. We don't have an issue with the pavilion being rented. I mean, that's what it's there for. We just want our rights to be considered as well. That's all I have. Thanks. And thanks, Joe, for coming over.
All right, thank you. Next, good segue, as the next is the discussion regarding pavilion noise concerns and potential solutions. Matt?
There's a couple of documents drafted. Thanks, Randy. Forgot to switch over here. And I'll kind of give a summary of what's been happening. I think council's well aware, pavilions rented, majority of weekends. There are winter rentals, but it really picks up in the warmer weather, which is interesting because of the lack of air conditioning in the building. But the facility is rented heavily through the warm season. I think we have one available weekend in the next 10 weekends. So it is booked solid. It's been booked solid. There is a lot of interest in use of the facility. I've drafted some language here as a amendment or additional language to be put into future rental contracts. And I think the key is we've had three rentals in the last 6 or 7 weekends, Dennis can clarify that for me, that have been issued citations for playing music beyond 11:30 p.m. And I've developed I'll get back to my place here, sorry. In the packet, there's a sign-out sheet that I've started to implement with all users of the pavilion acknowledging that they have to cease their music at 11:30 p.m. And since we've started doing this, 3 of them have, willingly went past that. The citation amount is not enough of a deterrent to have them stop, and I honestly think that to address the 11:30 p.m. issue with someone who's going beyond 11:30, we need to find a way to withhold a portion or majority of their security deposit as teeth to make sure that people comply. I'll go a step further, and in conversations with Chief Weiner and Attorney Johnson, I think our noise ordinance has to be looked at, and this isn't just a pavilion issue, it's a neighborhood issue as well that I've had other people bring up to me, is that there's not clearly defined teeth, so to speak, in our noise ordinance for things to be addressed that violate what is someone's right to meaningfully enjoy their homes. So I don't think that we're going to get into we're not going to get into the noise ordinance this evening. I do have a recommendation in my memo that if committee of the whole council is interested, that they ask staff to bring that back after some discussion at a future meeting.
Right. Mayor?
So I went and did a little bit of research on other communities surrounding us let's see, 1, 2, 3, 6 other communities besides us. One went as late as 11 p.m., but 2 of them were 10:30 p.m. One was 10 p.m., one was 9, and one was 7 p.m. unless permitted to go. And then they also had a not audible in excess of 200 feet from the source. So, I mean, timing-wise, we could limit the time, but again, I went to Brooks' house and went inside the house with the door closed, and all the windows were closed, TV was on, and the music was super loud. And besides music being super loud, the bass was beyond, it must have been turned up to its maximum level, because you could feel the thumping on my chest being in there. We have to find a way to curb this. Nobody's denying anybody the right to have a party, to enjoy themselves, but when it gets to the point where it's that offensive outside, week after week after week, we have to have some teeth in whatever we're doing to enforce this. So,
All right.
but I know we got 10:30 on here. I wouldn't have an issue with bringing that time frame to an earlier time.
Alder Rostad.
I know you don't want to go into the ordinance, but I do. What's the current ordinance say for noise or sound for time? There's no quiet time in the city?
Yeah,
Can you come up here, though?
Paul's
Oh,
It's-
Paul's got it.
yeah, 38-106 is loud and unnecessary noise prohibited. And it is 2 sentences. No person shall make or cause to be made loud, disturbing, or unnecessary sounds or noises that may annoy or disturb a person of ordinary sensibilities in a public street, alley, park, or private residence. So there's a lot of good words, but nothing nothing specific to hang your hat on. A lot of municipalities try to measure decibels at a lot line or something like that. I'm not a fan of that either, because that requires an officer to be trained in decibel measuring. That just opens up a whole nother can of worms. I like what the mayor said about looking at the time. If it was me, I would probably set 10 o'clock or 10:30, knowing full well that it'll take them until 11:30 to get out and be quiet, but I'm old, so, so that might be a little bit too aggressive, going the other direction. But it would seem that chapter 38-106 could have another paragraph in that specifically deals with the pavilion and specifically dovetails onto what you're looking at up here, that if you have something that says, a violation of the security deposit form or the noise restriction acknowledgement form is a forfeiture of a lot more than, I don't know if it's 134 or whatever the going rate is right now, but it could be a lot higher.
134.
Yeah, so you could make that a significantly higher penalty and then have a security deposit and a monetary forfeiture on top of it. The problem with that is that requires court time then, but if that's what you need to do, then that might be what you need to do.
So if our current ordinance doesn't have any time restriction, we can change the proposal in front of us and give staff direction to draft the ordinance to tailor what we want in this forfeiture policy or the rental agreement.
If I can, I think one of the things that is of concern is current contracts, right? We have contracts written for the rest of this year. There's contracts into next year. An ordinance change, and Paul can correct me if I'm wrong, an ordinance change is going to supersede contracts that we have issued. Whereas if we just change contract language, that's only going to affect contracts that we write moving forward.
I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, if you create an ordinance and the people that are using the pavilion are notified of the ordinance and that it is in effect right now, then that allows you to enforce the ordinance, even though the contract might say something different.
I think that's the direction we have to go with it. Do we still move this forward, though? It really has no teeth, correct? Only on new contracts signed? So there's no point in moving it forward if the ordinance supersedes it, is how I understand it, correct?
I think there are two different tools to make an effort to address the problem. I mean, I think that the security deposit angle is something that should be implemented as soon as possible.
I'm not saying not to implement it, it's just, these are only for people that sign from today forward, once it's approved, if approved.
Unless Matt or whoever is responsible for doing that work goes back and gets, notifies everybody and gets everybody to sign in and do their deposit, that you could, then it would be effective. But if you've already got a signed contract and they say, I'm not signing anything else and here's my deposit, you're kind of stuck.
And then we just have the forfeiture of the fine that law enforcement can issue.
Yep.
Thank you.
Alder Lawson?
So you want something to implement now for anyone that signs an agreement moving forward, because it could take several weeks for us to go through that whole process, right? So can we modify this to say, in accordance with the current ordinance, or 11:30, whichever is earlier, something like that, and then when we get to the ordinance, if we decide to change the time there, then it's still in effect?
The thing is that the contract, we're already contracted out for the rest of the year and some into next year. So there isn't
Well, we're
gonna be.
not full though. There's still weeks that could be rented.
Is there, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I think what you want to do is avoid sending something to people and then sending something else, like communicating something else, right? And so if we know an ordinance maybe is going to take 4 to 6 weeks, maybe we contact everyone that has a rental in the next 4 to 6 weeks with the revised language on the contract and asking them kind of to add that as an addendum to their existing contract. And like Paul said, some may choose to say, no, I'm not going to do that. Others may accept it. And then once a new ordinance is in place, then we communicate that to everybody moving forward, rather than kind of keep changing our approach, if that makes sense.
Alder Fuller?
In Franklin, their large recreational park that they built that has been very successful has been met with lots and lots and lots of pushback from the residents due to the same thing. And I think there's some little adjustments that could make a big difference. And one being the bass, noise deadening, and depending on how they position their speakers, and perhaps some other outside trees, natural barriers could help with this. But I would, not that it matters for me, but please don't move.
It doesn't matter, we're not gonna be able to sell the house anyway, because nobody's gonna wanna buy it. I'll be honest with you. There's nobody that is going to want to buy our house because of the noise. And we spent 20-plus years.
We can't have
restoring our
yelling
house.
from the
I'm
audience.
sorry. I'm done. I'm out.
All right, Alder Fuller?
There's things that we can do, and I'm confident that we will work through those. That's it.
Okay, Alder Rolke?
Couple things. I do like the proposed rental agreement language. It's been a minute since I rented the pavilion for anything, but I seem to recall that the contract for like the amount of time that you could be in there was midnight. I would prefer to see the music time match, and I know that there's, you know, there's cleaning time or whatever afterwards before people are actually out, but like the end time for your event should match the end time for the music. There's like a 30-minute discrepancy if the contract time is still midnight. That's something I might like to see addressed. I think if we're going to talk about an ordinance, we need to be very specific. There are some events in Columbus that are known, and they, you know, the entire 4th of July week kind of predicates on what happens in the beer garden, and that goes until midnight every year. Everybody knows that, but it should be written then. There should be exceptions written into, in my opinion, the ordinance, so that there isn't pushback on things that are well established like that. Another one being like the holiday train is frequently there until like 11 or 11:30 at night. It's been that late at times. That's something I'd like to see written into the ordinance. And I think that was everything I wanted to mention.
Okay, Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. And Amy just covered most of what I was going to say. I was concerned about special events like 4th of July. I would have a small difference. I would still want them to have the extra half hour of cleanup time. I don't want the end time to be the exact same. I think that'll just make it a little messy for people meeting their contract deadlines. I guess I'm wondering if we should have a discussion what kind of numbers we're looking at for the deposit, what might be something that's not so onerous that they're just not going to take the place, but that would have a little bite to it.
So a non-resident pays a $3,000 deposit for a weekend rental. A resident has a $2,000 deposit for a weekend rental. So those are the numbers that we're collecting as a security deposit.
Alder Rostad?
The only thing I'm going to say is if we decide as a council to give direction tonight to do a ordinance, that staff is in contact with the 4th of July, because they might be already signing contracts with music, understanding that they're good to go to 11:30 yet. So we just got to make sure we're in contact with them, that they don't sign something that they can't honor anymore due to our new language. And I agree they're well established, but how does a council governing body say it's okay for one organization but not someone that's renting the pavilion? I don't know if the 4th of July rents the park, pays a full fee or not. We gotta be careful how we word that if it comes to that.
Alder Rolke?
I guess I disagree a little bit with Alder Rostad in that I think a personal celebration is inherently different from a community celebration, and those are expected community celebrations that happen year after year, and they're limited time events as opposed to weekend after weekend after weekend for the pavilion. I would also, Matt, are you talking about like the full amount of the deposit forfeiture? Like, is that the intent?
It could be up to that. I don't know that I have a recommendation, and I don't know what our city attorney would say about what is our ability to withhold that deposit from a defensible standpoint.
So when you said 3,000 and 2,000, is that the fee for the rental, or is that the deposit on top of the fee.
That is the deposit that they need to pay to hold the building, and then 60 days in advance of their rental date, they have to pay their rental amount. And that varies based on a number of factors of how long they're reserving the building. There's day reservation rate, and there's additional time that they can get half-day Friday and half-day Sunday. And that's what I've seen, at least recently, a lot of groups are doing. So they get the setup time on Friday, they have the event on Saturday, and the cleanup time on Sunday.
Yeah. I don't think that there is a magic number for us. This is not like an apartment rental where it's 1 month is what you can withhold. So I think it's whatever the contract requires and whatever the renter signs. So if you had a $3,000 deposit and you have a $3,000 penalty for violating the terms of the contract, that is what they signed. In my mind, I'd be comfortable trying to defend that. Just because I don't think, and especially when it's laid out in black and white beforehand, and if you don't like these terms, go somewhere else. So, I think that you can kind of pick your number there.
One other thing that I thought of, and it's maybe not fully germane to this particular rental agreement, except it kind of is, because I feel like we are vastly undercharging from what other event venues in like the Madison area are charging, and maybe that's something that needs to be addressed as well. That's it.
Mayor?
So, if I recall, that the music for 4th of July is supposed to end at 11 o'clock. I thought that's what I read on the different bands that they stopped playing at. Yeah. I know that the 4th of July committee has asked the members or whatever bands that they get, that they have tried to respect the people around them and keep the sound. It seemed like it worked for a little bit. I think it's just something that needs to be reminded. As we're looking through a policy, I don't think, 10:30 or 11 o'clock is not out of line going forward, but I still think we have some responsibility, even though there's, nothing in the ordinance. I don't think there's anything wrong with us trying to put some teeth by contacting the people who have already rented and explaining that there are, several complaints about this. Again, I was out there. That was beyond loud. And putting the base from 10 down to 3 would take care of a good share of that. But we have, these are tax-paying citizens that they're paying annually, and we need to be respectful of those tax-paying citizens. And again, I was out there. I heard it. And Brooke wasn't the Antlers were not the only people that I talked to. I had talked to another one of the neighbors around there. So this is a definite problem. We have to, whatever we decide on a policy, but we have to be contacting these people who already have it rented, saying that they have to be respectful of the people around the area too. So, and I have no problem drafting a letter and sending it out, and then an ordinance with some teeth to it. So.
All right, before I go on to Alder Reed, just a reminder, as we're talking through this, we'll be looking for suggestions on time, on how we can manage this, so feel free to also bring that up. Alder Reed.
Oh, thank you. I would not want to take more than half of the deposit amount as forfeiture for sound. I want to leave some bit of teeth for encouragement for good care of the facility itself. I just don't want to encourage persons to simply give up at a certain point on the care of the treasured place.
Alder Rosted? Oh, go ahead.
If I could ask a clarifying question to just something to think about as we work through this, whether it's at this meeting or if it moves forward to council. What is the trigger to withhold the deposit? It's easy to set a time, and if they go over that time, that's easy. But if is it a number of complaints? Is it, in addressing the volume issue at an event, whether that's at 7 PM or 10 PM, is it repeated contact with the PD? And the reality is, a lot of nights, not all nights, but there are nights where there's one officer on a Saturday night. And they may be on another call and aren't able to address the complaint in a timely fashion. And so whether that's at, 7 PM, 9 PM, 10 PM, it's easy to set a time, and if they go over that time, they lose half of their security deposit or whatever that amount is. But is there other triggers or requirements to withhold a portion of the security deposit? Just a question I'm asking for you to, I guess, think about and respond.
Alder Rosted?
Yeah. You kind of answered your own question, and I was going to bring it up. But I think we need a time, because if we go on complaint basis, anyone can call and go, the music's too loud at 6 o'clock. And if that's a trigger point, I mean, they're not even, maybe just had their meal or their grand march, if it's a wedding. So I think a time, I would be in favor of like 10:30 is my suggestion. And I'm the complete opposite of it, Alder Reed, though. 100% of the security deposit. If they see that dollar amount and they violate it, they know they're going to lose that on top of what they already paid to rent the building. And that's got to have some skin in the game, where they go, we just paid $3,000 for the pavilion this weekend, but we just got a noise ticket and now it cost us $6,000. I think it would have merit and weight to it that would probably stop it a lot faster than the phone call to dispatch and the cop showing up. So those are my suggestions.
Alder Lawson?
I see your point, but I think the problem with doing 100% of their deposit is you're going to get those people potentially that at that point, if they know that they've lost their deposit, don't care about your facility anymore and could do damage. And
Can't they still be billed for that, though? Like, the deposit is, they do $10,000 in damage. It's not like we only charge them $2,000, right?
You would have to read the current contract. I think there's damage assessments in there.
Right, and remember that, yes, you can bill somebody. Collecting it is a whole different,
Yeah.
especially when they're not local. I mean, if they're local, your chances are a little bit better, but if these are people that are from Madison or from another community, the cost of tracking them down and collecting or taking them to small claims court or whatever the case might be, gets expensive real fast. It just does.
I would just pick an amount. If you say that's $500, $1,000, whatever it is, and say that is the amount that they would forfeit, no matter whether they're, a resident, non-resident, whatever, for a noise violation. And then I think you have to have some kind of independent verification. Like you said, it can't just be because someone made a complaint, right? There's got to be, I think like this policy says, city staff, law enforcement, authorized agents of the city, there has to be something documenting that they verified that there was a violation.
Alder Wilkie?
I guess I'd probably, in my mind, split the difference on that and say 2/3 of the security deposit for the noise violation, but then there's that third that's left over if there is damage, that you could add verbiage into the contract saying, you know, noise violation and damage, you forfeit the whole thing. And I would say I'd be comfortable with like 10:30 for a time.
I just want to ask a quick question before, if that's okay, Alder Rustad. What have we done for sound deadening within the pavilion?
Nothing in the time I've been with the city. There's a perception that if air conditioning moves forward, that would keep windows or doors closed, but I don't know that that's going to have a significant impact on the issues we're currently experiencing. And since I'm talking just with security deposit, anytime stick to percentage, because there's like five or six different security deposits based on what group you are and when you're renting it. Weekday versus weekend, those sort of things.
Okay, Alder Rustad?
And that's what I was gonna say. We have to stick to a percent, because if we don't, we're gonna create more work for ourselves when we increase the rental fee and we're only collecting 500 for a violation. This way, if we say X percent tonight and we make a significant adjustment a month from now on the rental cost, that percent's already in there and it's gonna move forward that way. So, yeah, those are my suggestions. A percentage, and I'm happy with 10:30.
Attorney Johnson, how much of a nightmare would it be to set restrictions on the actual like equipment that they use?
One of the questions that I was curious about is the noise problem bands, DJs, or people bringing their own music in and playing it over, their own system, or is it a combination of all three? And it doesn't matter, but I was thinking about that.
Well, we can get answer quick. Brooke, do you have? I'm assuming DJs, right?
Well, my opinion is that it's basically like one specific group of people. And because like there's a lot of people that do parties and stuff over there, you usually don't have an issue except for one specific group of people.
DJs? Are they using DJs?
They
do DJs and bands.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter.
So DJs and bands, so it doesn't matter.
In fact, this last weekend, it started out with a band and it went to a DJ.
Okay.
Because like usually even like 4th of July, like I don't hear that in the house. I can go outside and hear it, but in the house, I don't hear the bands over it for 4th of July.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Attorney?
I think that the best, what exactly was your question again? 'Cause I got derailed.
How much of a nightmare it would be to put restrictions on, like if it's a DJ, you can only,
Oh,
your
okay.
settings have to be certain settings or nothing higher?
So I think that the answer to that is if you had somebody from the city in the building on staff monitoring it all night long, that would be a tremendous benefit because they would be able to come in and say, turn it down, turn this down, it's 11:28, stop playing. That, of course, is an expense as well and a nightmare for that person who but if that person's on the payroll, maybe they don't mind. But because when you're talking about, you're all kind of talking about this also is like, what's the trigger for the enforcement? How do we know when the music's too loud? Okay, if you have somebody who's in the building on staff from the city, that's your witness. So maybe that's the cost of doing business, is that you've got somebody I have no idea who that person would be, but you've got somebody that's willing to be the hall monitor for the night. And maybe that's just a good idea to have somebody there anyway. That's a whole nother layer of questions, but that's how much of a nightmare it would be.
Alder Lawson?
Okay, so I'm definitely in favor of us reviewing the noise ordinance soon. In order to implement something now, so that you can have future rental agreements in place with this language, I'm in favor of saying a 50% deposit forfeiture for a noise violation, and I like the 11:30 until we have a full discussion on what a revised noise ordinance should be.
So you're just saying if they play after 11:30, you're not saying any other, because what I'm hearing the problem is two things. They're playing after 11:30 and they're playing just extremely loud all the time, like the whole time.
I'm saying in order to implement something now, yes, so that there's at least something in place until we review and revise the noise ordinance.
Alder Fuller?
At the risk of voices getting risen again, I think we need to communicate how much we really do care about our residents, and that we really do want to work to figure this out. But I can't believe that there isn't a device that we could put in various areas of the pavilion that measures decibels and can send a message, a signal, or whatever to the PD or to whoever in order that would trip, that it's kind of like a fire alarm. You have a repeating alarm that sends the initial that it triggered, it's over a certain decibel. And then that's where it begins. And then they reach out. So yes, I do believe we need to have a policy. Yes, I do believe 10:30, 11 o'clock, and the 50% is more than reasonable. But along with other noise deadening, foam, directional, speakers, adjusting tones, etc., will go a long way as well, I believe.
Alder Rostad?
So, to Alder Lawson's suggestion, if we leave it at 11:30 though, that's still the trigger point to pull the 50,000 or 50,000.
Sold.
The 50% of the security deposit. That only addresses one issue. I mean, I will have to agree with Alder Finkler that the time limit's one issue and the continuous noise is the other issue. But if the ordinance defines continuous, I remember the wording you said, like annoying noise, can that be a trigger point as well with law enforcement?
I think you're talking about two different things here, and that was gonna be the question that I had for the group, is that in addition to the security deposit being withheld, do you also wanna have a provision for a forfeiture issued by the police department? That would be something, because that would be something that would be, all right, at 6:30 PM and the music is blaring out and is just, because you already have that, loud and unnecessary noise prohibited. With something with a little bit more teeth, monetary teeth.
There's a little bit of research being done down here, and there are devices that can sense decibel and sound and trigger notifications sent. So just in case that helps anybody with recommendations on, one of those.
But if we only have one officer on duty and they're busy, we can't.
Do you need an officer to respond, or do you just say that's the triggering event that you lose half your deposit?
Someone could light a firework off and it triggers that. How do we know it was the people at the pavilion?
Yeah.
But as if it's decibel related,
You put it inside.
Turn your thingy on.
Sorry. I mean, you can locate them inside, and the ones I'm looking at, you set custom decimal levels, and you can have notifications set up so it could go to someone at the city. If it, reaches a certain amount, they could notify the police department. If they're available, they can go
Columbia County.
further verify. But I think it's at least looking into if that's an avenue that could help the situation.
yeah, especially with budget time coming, those are all things that we can explore for avenues, but
They're not extremely extreme. How much is that one? I mean, there's a comma, but,
I didn't see a price for this one yet.
There's a decimal point and everything too, but.
I mean, I'm seeing things with like anywhere from 3,000 to like 9,000 or something like that. So, but like Joe said, these are tax-paying residents.
Right.
We have, like, that might be a small price to pay to show some consideration for them.
But if we're willing to go that far, I think we're probably in the weeds, but to Attorney Johnson's point, maybe that's part of city staff, a person's job, whether it's a new rec director or whatever, whoever's in charge of renting, maybe that's part of it. It could be a position.
I just want to caution, I've been in communities where we did different things with staffing, not staffing rentals. If you're going to put this on a exempt positions, duties and responsibilities, they're going to flex their time. And if they spend 14 hours at a rental over the weekend, that's 14 hours of work that they're not going to, and you're going to, at a director level position, you're going to limit your applicant pool substantially.
That makes the smart device sound even better.
Well, the device is one, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but the device is one thing, but you can have a device, but if you still can't get an officer there because they're tied up with something else, we gotta have something that can be done for enforcement.
If you have the device and if you put the right words into the ordinance, if the device records, and that's the trigger for the withholding of the security deposit, that can be checked later, I would assume. And the same would also be true, if you decide to go the forfeiture route, because you'll have the record from the device. Now, always subject to whether or not it's actually working, or if the power goes out, or, things like that. Well, if the power goes out, there won't be any amplified
There won't be
noise
any
to begin with,
music.
so that'd be okay. But, there's always, it's always nice to have an officer who witnesses something when they're writing a citation. I guess I'll just leave it there. But the device is better than nothing.
And the device can be connected to the security deposit, not necessarily a
Right.
citation, which if the police officer cannot come out and issue a citation, we still have the security deposit backup. Otherwise, if they draw the wrong straw that night and the police officer is available, they're gonna get a citation and a security deposit.
If
forfeiture.
you've got a printout or a video of 11:45 PM and music at 100 decibels, and you've got something in your hand that you can show or rely on, that makes the security deposit part pretty easy.
Yeah, this one sends live sound profile straight to a cloud reporting interface. Just one I just ChatGPT'd.
What
so.
I'd really like to do, I think the device has a lot of merit. I'd really like to reach out to a similar entity, it doesn't even have to be a city, but a similar rental facility and that's using one of these and see how it's
How
worked,
they use
what
it.
challenges they've encountered, any undesired. Right, yeah.
Alder you've been waiting very patiently.
I just wanted to ask Paul a question, because I expressed interest in a percentage, but then I started thinking about it. Do we run into fairness issues when we've got two different deposit rates? Do we need to have a dollar number to be fair to who's ever renting it regardless?
No, because if the percentage is, the percentage would be the same for all of it. So if it's a $3,000 50% and a $2,000 50%, it's still 50%.
Okay.
So I wouldn't have a problem with that.
All right, so I've heard, the majority of people that I've heard so far is 50% of the deposit. Is anybody against that? Or is that okay? Trying to at least get some information from Matt here. So far, 50% of the deposit forfeiture. We're gonna look into a device and see how other communities are handling it. And we are going to review the noise ordinance, so that's direction for staff to do that. The last thing we need to decide on is time. I've heard anything between 10 and 10:30 to 11:30. So I'm looking for recommendations on a time to stop all music. Alder Rosted.
I received an email and a lot, like, bands in the bars, they're asked to stop at 10 o'clock. So we could tailor it to that as well. Again, I said 10:30, so I still stand in that area.
Alder Reed?
I'm at 11.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
A big part of our business and let's be honest, there's a business component to this, there's revenue goals, is weddings. And I'm at the age where I'm too old for any of my friends to be getting married, and my kids aren't old enough to be getting married, so I haven't been to many weddings lately. What time are dances ending?
I think it depends if you got a
Yeah,
party
some are going
family or
late.
not, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like, I'm old and I couldn't imagine being kept awake until 11:30 at night. Oh, I'm for real. I'm in bed by like 8, 9, even on a Saturday. Okay.
Well, I just think it depends on how much the people are gonna pay for their source of music, right? You know, if you're charged X amount of dollars and that's what you're gonna spend, that's when it's gonna end. If you start your wedding party at 5 and you paid for 5 hours, it's done at 10. You paid for 5 hours and you start at 6 or 7, well, now we're at 11 or 12.
But
And-
what they pay for
Turn your,
what they pay for music and that agreement has nothing to do with their agreement with us.
No, but he was asking when bands stop.
Oh. I'll stop.
yeah. Alder Lawson?
I think there's so many pieces to that you're going to have to deep dive into a lot of aspects, and I think that comes when we do the ordinance. That's why I kind of in favor of what was proposed for now being 11:30, because it's not completely unreasonably late, but it's also not so early that we push those groups away that want to be a little bit later.
I would second your proposal.
I'm fine with 11:30.
I'm good with it.
Let's see.
I would agree with that. However, I think there's 3 people in the audience that disagree with that. And that's why this is on the agenda.
Yeah, I'm good with 10:30. I'm just over here asking ChatGPT all the questions, and most most weddings stop playing music between 10 p.m. and midnight.
President Finkler? Brooks asking if he can come back up and speak.
Yes, as long as it's quick. And thank you for asking.
It's not really the time, it's the volume. I mean, Shauna said too, it's not the time. I mean, if they played until 3 o'clock in the morning, but at a volume we couldn't hear, I wouldn't
cares?
care.
Right.
I mean, that's the whole problem. It's just too loud. And you guys are welcome to come over to our house any weekend and experience it firsthand, like Joe did. I put that invitation out. Unfortunately, you know, obviously everybody's busy and has stuff to do, but that's a standing offer. Anytime you guys want to come out and see it for yourself, by all means, come on over.
Okay.
I mean, that way there, you'll have an idea of what we're dealing with.
Okay, so for moving forward, we're sticking to 11:30 for right now, right? Everybody's good with that for now. We're gonna review the noise ordinance, 50% of deposit. We're gonna look into a device and how we can monitor with a device. And also, I think we should look into some sound deadening stuff, and see if that helps. Alder Reed?
Oh, no, and it's not even for tonight. I was just thinking that if we're considering getting one of the decibel devices for inside, we would need to have someone test it outside so we'd know what level the decibel should be inside for it to be at a lower level outside. Just a thought.
Yep. Mayor?
Just one of the communities that I had researched had a 80 decibel limit on theirs. But also, I think one thing that we do need to do, once we're still trying to work through all of this, and even with the noise ordinance, is to contact everybody that has a contract to rent, just to make them aware. And I have no problems with being involved with that, so put me to work, so.
Okay. All right. Matt, do you have everything that you need for right now? Is there anything else you need?
Well, this is gonna move to council, and I assume there's gonna be a
Oh,
motion
yeah, that's right. This is
at
moving to council.
That's what I was.
You have to make a motion on that at council?
You're gonna wanna make a motion to approve what's up on the screen. Or not, or wait till the next meeting.
Does that,
But this doesn't address.
this doesn't address everything we've talked about,
Oh, not
though.
even close.
So that's what I'm saying. Do we even, like, what does council want to do? Do we even send this to the council meeting? Or do you send it to Matt to go work some more magic before bringing it back to the council?
Right. Those are your choices.
Okay, we're not gonna move to council then. Matt, do your magic and then bring it back. Okay, anything else on this?
Just to reiterate, and that we contact the people that have already rented, just to make them aware of the concerns that are out there. And-
Yeah, so I think that's a good point, is like, even just maybe having a letter from the mayor to the people that already have contracts to be like, you know, please be considerate of neighbors and blah, blah, blah. We're working through updating our noise ordinance due to complaints, but we ask that you be respectful or something like that. Anybody?
I would even go so far as to giving them a call and talking to them.
You have to have,
And
you do have to have contact when they come in and pay their money and get their keys.
True,
So-
good point. Okay.
Or at
Alder
least I
Rossett?
assume you do.
Did we address this noise concern though, tonight? We did not give any relief to the residents that have put this on the agenda for the main concern of noise.
Well, I don't know that there's anything that we can do, like, to snap our fingers now that's gonna resolve it, but I know that we can put commitment out there that we're going to update to take 50% of the deposit if they break the rules on when they need to end. We're gonna look into sound deadening. We're gonna look into the, the smart devices, and we're also going to redo our noise ordinance. I think like that's pretty good steps forward, I think.
Well, and
Be on your
again, making the
next
personal contact.
And the personal
I
contact.
have, yeah.
To ask for respectfulness during this time.
So does this all have to come back to council or COW as one piece? Or can it come back as puzzle pieces to
Well, I'm
implement?
assuming it can come back as puzzle pieces, and it's already been discussed in COW, so it can go right to council.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Anything else on that? Okay. Next, discussion regarding recreation program fee policy.
The idea of establishing your recreation program fees and putting them into the annual fee schedule, from my perspective, is a bad practice. It doesn't allow you to make adjustments and be kind of more business-minded with how you set your recreation program fees. I've drafted a policy here that's actually something that I'm familiar with from the city of Appleton that we tweaked when I was in Whitewater, and essentially allows staff to set the fees with some targeted percentages of fee recovery. And so why that's important is when like for youth soccer this fall, I made the decision to not continue with challengers and bringing in the coach. We worked with C.O.W. to kind of increase some opportunities through C.O.W. at the younger age levels and are still running our introductory program, but you wouldn't want to charge the same fee that we were paying that also included the challenger coach, right? And so it's just one example of you make some changes, you want to be able to address the fee that you're charging to be representative of the costs you're incurring. So that's essentially what this policy does.
Alder Lawson.
So I completely agree with the removal from the fees, the way that they're documented. I'm concerned maybe a little bit about the cost recovery portion of the policy. You know, we have some statements in here about, like, number one, youth and instructional sports programs as a whole shall recover at least 110% of the operating costs for those programs. What happens if it doesn't? You know, I mean, there could be years where you know you want to do more and you don't recover 110%.
So to answer that, it's an overall goal for like that group of programs. And not to get too far into the weeds, but what I've made my rec program staff do in the past is always fill out an end of program report that gives a 3-year history on the program. And then you see trends and you may decide, hey, this program is dying a slow death and we're going to stop it and introduce something new. But it allows you then to look at what percent you're recovering and do we need to make adjustments in either how we're operating the program, what we're charging, that sort of thing. So I guess it's more of a guideline as a hard and fast every program kind of rule.
I think just adding the word goals after cost recovery would help there.
Okay.
And then I like the part about the reporting. I don't think we had as much detailed program-specific reporting going to the rec committee before. So being able to see, you know, by program what is working or not and where we should invest, you know, money and resources is helpful.
Alder Rostad?
Does the refund section tailored to newly approved rec direction to council on the refund policy that the rec committee brought to council a few months ago?
It's a good question, Ryan. It's something that I need to take a further look to verify that it does.
And then if it doesn't, we can move it forward, right?
Yeah.
With staff or council direction for staff to adjust to previous adopted refund policy?
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Are we good moving forward? All right, moving forward. Next discussion regarding the proposal from the Columbus Chamber Choir.
Kind of outlined the request, was approached by the director of the choir. They have 4 planned upcoming concerts that are outside of the frequently rental. We don't have a lot of Sunday evening rentals or late afternoon rentals. So I think it works well with our existing schedule and doesn't create any conflict. They are willing to share the proceeds. I'm not expecting that to be a large financial windfall, but I think, I think I talk in here about, it provides additional cultural and community programming within the parks. It's in a time that the building isn't heavily used, and seems to make some sense.
Any discussion? We good moving forward? All right, we're on a track here. Next, I have a feeling this one's going to be a big discussion too. Discussion concerning the request of a citizen for a flock camera policy. Matt.
I'm going to yield to Chief to address this and talk more about it. Dennis has done a lot of work on this topic, and I frankly would rather he talk to you and answer any questions you have regarding this.
This is fine. I'm under good light, so I can read these small fonts, so if I need to, so we're good. I'm good standing, actually. All right, good evening. I'm here to talk about a flock policy, or the lack thereof. Just a little bit of background about me. In a previous department, I was the policy and accreditation manager for the department. From 2004 to 2008, I worked here part-time as a patrol officer while working full-time elsewhere. One of the things I did was write policy for the department, help update it, and since I've been here in 2008, we've switched. I wrote the policy manuals that we use through CSI, which is a vendor, and now through Lexipol. So I'm very familiar, I'm very used to writing policies and contents and following directions and things like that. So I guess my biggest comment would be, or my biggest thing to bring forward, is the city ordinance on responsibilities of me and what I'm directed to do. And City Ordinance 5857 and 5859 delegate me as having administrative authority over the department, which includes policies, rules, and those types of things. Work rules, workplace rules, and policies. The request came, initial conversation started a couple of months ago about the development of a policy. I reviewed what we have, and I was comfortable with what we have. The city personnel handbook has 3 policies that address several factors if there was a policy violation. And the police department itself, because we have our own set of policies, we're required by state law to have some mandatory policies, but we have our own set of policies, and we have 2 specific policies with several parts of that could be brought into play if in fact there was a violation of the use of our flock system. What's a little frustrating is from the get-go, we were almost accused of being guilty of misusing the system when there's no basis to support that. And it was an uphill battle from the initial conversations. I know other people have been arrested. I know people have been fired. I know that's a big media thing. There's bad apples in every career. Law enforcement and teachers seem to get the brunt of it when something goes bad in the media, and I recognize that. Only 4 people in our department, including me, have access to the flock system with a login and then a third-party authentication through your phone. And it is, officers have been directed to use it for official business only, obviously, and if they don't, the 5 policies can kick in. And cumulatively in these 5 policies, there's a lot more teeth than what I've seen in some of the department's flock policies I've looked at. So again, I'm comfortable with where we're at with this. Going back to, now I lost my train of thought. Give me a second here. Okay. Also, Flock has an algorithm built in. I'm listed as the account owner or the account exec or the super user, for those that understand that term, in Flock. There's algorithms that are built in that if someone is a same user is repetitively running a plate, I can click on a tab and see that to keep an eye on that. And they also have what they call audit logs, which I can look at, which shows me every time any of the other three and myself log in and use the system and what they use it for, and they're required to put in certain data. And I can verify that that, in fact, was a legitimate use. I'm going to go back the last 30 days and just give you the 9 uses of Flock that we've had, just to give you an understanding. And these are all documented. They're all electronic records in the Flock system. The 9 uses that we've had to show that we have been following the rules that I've set and that I have little concern about misuse. We use them for to look for a vehicle in a theft. We had a road rage involving a firearm. We were looking to identify a vehicle. We had a hit on Flock in town here of a stolen vehicle, which we recovered a short time later this last weekend in town here. We had a complaint from a business in town here that people were illegally dumping in their dumpster. Was getting them a cost, so we looked and searched for that. We had a hit on a stolen vehicle. Well, we were alerted to a hit on a Flock on the south edge of Beaver Dam that we thought may be coming this way of a stolen vehicle. We have been looking for an armed robbery suspect. It's the one that I mentioned in my monthly report. We've been looking for him for some time and monitoring. He had reportedly been staying here off and on at a residence here in Columbus. And we knew his vehicle, so we were monitoring that. And we took him into custody on, I believe, July 29th here in town after a short foot pursuit. We also had used it for a suicidal person to try and locate them. And then on West James Street, a few weeks ago, we had someone display a firearm and rack around into the chamber as they were driving down the street. So those are the 8 or 9 uses that we've had for Flock in the last 30 days. And it's being used responsibly. You know, bigger departments, those are the ones that you've seen the arrests of where everybody has access to it. I restricted it from the start just to, you know, eliminate any of those potentials. And I could stand by what we have if I needed to, and more so again about the ordinance, making it my responsibility. I mean, the buck stops with me. If there's a violation, we will deal with it. And if someone's using it for a personal reason, I will see that and I will deal with it. Anybody that works for me or anybody that used to work for me will tell you I'm all about accountability. And in my conversations with Mr. Hartman, that has been a frequent word about accountability. And anybody will tell you where I stand on that or where I stand on any sort of policy violations or unethical behavior. And it's a great system. We use it when we need it. You know, there's a false perception out there, I think everywhere, that we're sitting down in front of the Flock system with our eyes stuck to the screen, looking for people, watching people, running plays, doing that type of stuff. And that's just completely untrue, completely. There's a lot of false information out there about Flock too. I know it's about the policy tonight, and I will stick to that, but there's a lot of false information that people seem to believe and then feed on that, and that's unfortunate for the value of the system. To the point of a more defined policy, you know, Mr. Hartman mentioned in emails, and he mentioned tonight about getting a warrant to use the system. The video are our records. We look at our records. To get a warrant, you have to have a crime. It's not a crime to be suicidal. It's not a crime to be an elderly person missing, silver alert, that their license plate is entered into a system. And it's also not a crime for a green alert, which is a missing veteran. And we see silver alert, the green alerts all the time get sent out through email system that we have through the Wisconsin Crime Alert Network. The Amber Alert for children, that's a no-brainer, that's a crimes attached to that, so that would fall in that case. Again, we're using it responsibly. There are many, many, many things in place that if there's a misuse of the system, I am monitoring it. I think my reputation with the council and with the community for the last 18 and a half years, I think speaks for itself. Accountability is something I take seriously, and my supervisors who have access to this as well as my staff are very aware of that. And I don't think I had any other notes to talk about. It's not just willy-nilly, oh, here's a program, use it. There are safeguards in place, and there can't be a policy in place for every possible misconduct or misdeed in the workplace. That's just not the way it is. It's impossible to cover that. So I guess in the end, you know, it's up to you. There's an opportunity to do nothing on this tonight. There's an opportunity to request more action. I would ask that Ordinance 5859, which makes policies my responsibility and my decision where we're at with policies, be upheld. But if you have other directions or other questions, that's fine as well. Thank you.
Any questions, comments, concerns? Alder Reed.
Oh, thank you. Let's see, where to start. My first question is, who owns the flock cameras? I'm really not so much concerned with our local law enforcement use, but I'm just wondering how wide access is. Can anyone, including individual citizens, do like a public records request to get video? I just don't understand enough about the scope and breadth of how the systems work. And I know Flock is just, you know, one brand name, the most popular brand name of these kind of cameras.
Okay, records requests can be filed for flock information depending on what the request is. You know, it may or may not be granted. It may be granted, it may be redacted if it's a matter that's under investigation and we don't want to release that. Flock does have what they call a transparency portal, which I am considering having added to the PD's webpage, where people can click and see what we've ran over a period of 30 days. I know it was big news this weekend that Flock changed their retention period from 30 to 7 days, and I'm still a little green with that. I was out Thursday and Friday and have been busy the last 2 days, but to figure out how that comes to be, Flock holds data for 30 days and then it's deleted, and now it's going to go down to 7. Which is fine, because most of the times we're looking or trying to identify somebody or something is very timely. So I'm okay with that. The user defines the period of time, but their default is 7. It used to be 30.
And who owns them?
Flock the equipment is owned by a company, and the pictures it takes and the video is property of ours. And then we log into a website and we can do a search, or we can do various different things through Flock.
Alder Rostad.
So I have quite a few questions that were emailed in, and I think you answered some of them, and if we get to one that you answered, we'll just go to the next. One of the questions is whether the city's contract restricts Flock's own access to the data collected on Columbus's cameras.
Well, Flock, through some way, shape, or form, I'm sure they probably have some kind of it. You know what, on this topic, I don't want to give you a bad answer and then get accused later of he didn't know what he was talking about or gave a bad answer, because that's been an issue in other communities. So that's something certainly I can check out, but I don't want to give you a concrete answer and be wrong, because that doesn't do either of us any good.
Whether Flock uses, retains, or shares our data with other agencies, federally or commercially, and under what terms?
Flock is, I would compare it to, in a way, Facebook. You have a Facebook account. You decide who you let in, who you don't. You decide what you post. Flock doesn't make the decision on who the information is shared with. The agency does. And we share with any other department that is in the Flock network. We do not share with federal agencies. We do not share with ICE. Despite that I see postings elsewhere, we don't. But anybody that's in the Flock network, the settings are set locally by this department that who can access or search through our system.
I think you answered this one. Who owns data once it's collected, the city or Flock?
It's the city. And then after the retention period is over, it's deleted.
And what audit rights the city has to verify compliance?
We have full access. I can log in and I can see anything anybody ran, when, why, date, time, their username. They have to put a case number in, that's required, so that I can track it back and look and see if it's legitimate.
Is the company supplying the cameras selling our data or releasing information about us to companies or government agencies? You kind of answered that.
And they aren't, and that's another one that's out there that Flock is selling my personal information. Flock has a picture, the system or our data has a picture of a license plate. They have no ability to know who that is, so how can they sell that person's information if they don't know who it's attached to?
How do we know our officers aren't pulling data for their own personal use?
Monitoring, audits.
The next question involves ICE, and you already answered that.
Yep.
How do we know, and how will we reassure that these cameras are being used for the sole purpose of finding criminals, traffickers, and not other things like we've been seeing in the news?
Well, I gave examples of the last 30 days, and I think everyone will agree, I would hope, that those are legitimate uses, and that's pretty much the standard.
And then will our police department report what they're using them for, much like the communication we receive when there's an arrest within the city? I'm assuming they're talking about press releases, maybe? With that
I mean,
question?
we can, yeah, it's just, that's a hard one for me to answer, because depending on the circumstances of the arrest, and, I can certainly, if it's tied to a press release, I can certainly include that if that's of interest.
That's all I have.
Like I said, the armed robbery arrest was definitely tied to Flock, because we were making sure he was here that day, and he had committed an armed robbery and fired shots at somebody, so.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Serious case. Yep.
Alder Lawson. Alder Wilkie turned her light off and threw me for a loop there.
So Chief, you said there are 4 people, including yourself, that have access.
Yep.
Who provides training on how to use the Flock system?
When we got the Flock system, we did sit-down training, and Flock went over the system with us over the phone. It's actually a pretty simple system, to be very honest with you.
And so then in the future, if you have someone else that has access that would be needed, would you provide that training, or lieutenant, or?
It could be that, or Flock also has a training program called the Flock Academy, which we could have those people use as well. It's online, it's right through their portal, where you log into and explains the system. It's honestly very simple. You put in a date range, and you put in a plate, or you type in descriptors of a vehicle you're looking for.
Last question I have is, you said that anytime you run a search, they have to enter a case number.
Yep.
So in the event of, a silver alert, do they have to go create a case in our case system in order to?
If
then
we
run
had a
that?
hit on a silver alert, we would create a case number, and then we would be combing town, just like you did with the stolen vehicle from Oconomowoc we recovered this last weekend.
Okay, thanks.
Alder Fuller.
I would just like to say that I have full trust in what our chief is doing in our police department. Unfortunately, I think it gets lost that while we need to protect our rights, we also need to protect ourselves from those who are doing bad. So if you go back to the 90s, when you could look up other people's addresses on the internet and actually get directions to their house, we've come a long way, and with every system, it's inert that there's going to be a bad actor. But these systems are designed to help us, and I wholeheartedly appreciate the police department and the work and effort that they put in to keeping us safe, because just because we're in Columbus doesn't mean that things don't go on here. It's right up the road or right across the street. And I
think
just
these
want to say
examples-
thank you.
I think these examples I gave for the last 30 days show that. I mean, honestly, still a safe and great community, but just for the people that maybe don't understand what we deal with and why we'd have a use for it.
One more question. I know Alder Rostad hit into a bunch of them, but I just wanted this answered on the recording so folks can listen to this again. Does Flock take pictures of the person inside of the vehicle and what they are doing?
Great question, thank you. Absolutely not. It's a picture of a license plate of the vehicle, and the windows are for the most part grayed out, or that area is refracted. I mean, I've seen many flock pictures in my time, and I've never been able to recognize a person or see a person. Maybe a silhouette, I won't say that, but never able to identify who is driving a car. That's not the purpose. Yeah, I know that's one of the things that I see reported out there.
Yeah, so it's false that people can get a ticket from the Flock system for using their phone while driving.
It's, well, actually.
telling you,
was-
I'm not- like,
No,
this is
I
out
agree.
there.
I've seen some of the same posts you have, and
Yep.
and
I just
no,
want it to be out there.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah.
No. Flock is not to be used for traffic enforcement purposes, and in the state of Wisconsin, photo citations are not allowed. You know, some states have the photo radar things where you might get, you know, if you're in Illinois, and I'm just picked out another state, you might get a ticket in the mail that you're speeding on I-43 through some town in Illinois. You might get a speeding ticket in the mail. Wisconsin doesn't allow that.
I think that's something good to hear too, because I've heard people throughout this process saying that, you know, they know of somebody in another state that got a ticket for running a red light, and they automatically assume, because that can happen in a different state, that it would happen here, and that's how we're using Flock. So I just wanted to put this out here to help stop some myths.
Well,
So-
I think what'll be very helpful, I talked earlier about the transparency portal the Flock has. I've talked to David about, we actually had a meeting yesterday, and I canceled for some other reason, to get that on our PD webpage, and the transparency portal has a huge Q&A section.
Love it. I would love to see that.
Yep. So expect to see that in the next few days when I can get together with David.
Alder Rostad.
Just two more. Well, this one might be for the attorney, and maybe Chief can, maybe he can answer it. I don't know. I guess it's more of a clarification or to get it out to the public. All we see on the news is city blah 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 has dropped their Flock contract, and the next day it's another one. The next day it's another one. What is pushing that to drop? Are the chiefs not wanting to dig deeper into it? Or was there misuse that they just want to get rid of it so the misuse is not there anymore in that form of technology? Or is there something else behind it?
Well, I'll give you my perspective on it. I know that it's obviously a hot topic. You can't open up a news channel or go to a news site without seeing an article about Flock this or Flock that or those types of things. So I know that's a hot topic nationally. I know that some departments have just decided not to continue it when their period is over. I know there is another vendor out there that has a similar system, and I know that some are looking at those. I'm not saying all. So there are other options out there as well. I haven't had any conversation with any departments that have dropped them, but I see the same things that you have, and there's probably for a variety of reasons, maybe specific to those communities.
And then, just for clarification, because there was a Facebook post kind of sort of blaming council for the funding, can you, what's the word I'm looking for? Can you explain how you funded this for last year and how it didn't meet purchasing policy to come back to council due to the threshold?
It was under the $15,000 threshold that's required to come to the council. I had talked to Matt about it. told them what we're doing. The monies were in the budget, in the technology, I don't remember whatever line item it was, and we went forward. It didn't meet the threshold to come to the council.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Just wanted to give a heads up that I've read through the policies that Dennis provided, and to me, they meet everything. I don't see a need to have a separate policy. So,
Alder Rolke?
I'm not 100% sure how I want to ask this, so I'm sorry if I trip a little here, but you mentioned, I guess, a distinction between open records or transparency for citizens, but you also kind of alluded to you control which other agencies are allowed access to the
Correct.
flock footage. How many other communities are we sharing with?
Oh, well, Flock is a nationwide network.
But you control how many we share with, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And how many departments?
I don't know, I can
Okay.
log in and look at the numbers. I mean, honestly, I don't know. It's right on one of their pages when I click on it, but it's nationally, so we're probably in the hundreds.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns, myth busting, fact finding, anything?
I want to add one more thing.
Yeah, of course.
Is that I've seen numerous posts of misinformation about the number of flock cameras that the city of Columbus has.
That is a good one. I was trying to remember.
We have 2 ALPR license plate cameras, license plate readers, 2. Not the 7 or 9 that I've seen posted on Facebook pages. And apparently the one on 73 going north out of town that isn't even there, that one I don't understand, but we have 2. And then also on the polls there's a video feature that if we see the need to log in and watch something in real time, if we're looking for a car, maybe coming into town or something, the 4 of us can. So that's why there are 2 cameras. You'll see, I think they're pointed in opposite ways on each pole. There aren't 4 license plate readers in total, there's 2.
Okay. Perfect. I forgot about that one, so thank you.
Yeah.
Any-
Thanks for the questions.
Anything else?
Happy to
I think
talk
this
about
is a really good opportunity for us to be able to speak about some of those myths and some of those things that are being spread of factual information or misinformation. So, Mayor?
the only thing I would say is that, again, after meeting with Dennis and reading over what he has, I see no purpose to move this forward to set a separate policy.
Does anybody, that's a perfect segue for me, does anybody want this to move forward to council? Nobody? Nobody? Yell now, speak now, forever hold your peace? Alder Rostet?
Why couldn't we move it and just motion it to die out there?
I mean, we could, or we could just not move it. I mean,
It's the same thing, basically, right?
yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Okay. This will not move forward, and I will now look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Got first by Alder Rolke, second by Alder Rostad. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Okay, welcome everybody to tonight's regular Common Council meeting of Tuesday, August 18th. And could I have a roll call, please?
Fuller.
Here.
Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Rolke.
Here.
Rosted.
Here.
Finkler.
Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting has been properly noticed according to state statutes, and I would look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve with the removal of number 10
7.
and 7.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Finkler. Do you have what was, okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. Public comment?
There's none.
Okay, thank you. You have in your packet department reports for file. Department reports of Finance of July of 2026, Fire of July of 2026, Library of July of 2026, and Police of July of 2026. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda, and that would be the Committee of the Whole and Common Council meeting minutes of August 5th of 2026.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Finkler. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passed. Next, we will consider and take action on ordinance number 820-26, an ordinance to repeal ordinance number 817-26 and recreate section 2-390 of the City of Columbus Code of Ordinances concerning the Ethics Committee. That question came up, I forget after what meeting, that we forgot to put terms and how to disperse those terms. So, did you have something that you wanted to add at that point? No. Okay, so at this point, I would look for a motion to suspend the rules.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Finkler to suspend the rules. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Then next would be to waive the readings.
So
Move
move.
to- Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Finkler. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And then last would be to approve ordinance number 820-26.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Roque, second by Alder Fuller. Any discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance passed. Thank you. Then, next would be to consider and take action on the mayoral appointments of the Ethics Committee members as posted.
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Finkler. Any discussion? Alder Lawson?
Sorry.
Okay. Okay. Then, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next would be to consider and take action regarding changing the November 3rd, 2026 council meeting date due to the 2026 general election to Wednesday, November 4th.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Rosted. Any discussion? Mike,
Who's Mike? Oh,
there.
if there's potential issues, is that gonna give the city enough time to finish the election and hence meet the next day?
God, I hope so, because I'm working it.
I think the preference from Susan is she would rather have Monday for setup. She'd rather have the meeting on Wednesday. That's always been her preference as the clerk.
I have no problem, it's just a question.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and this, I mean, I think somewhat concerned for the last November election also, which we were able to make it through okay, so. So any other discussion? Hearing none, then all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, November 4th. And then next would be consider and take action to approve sending an application for local historic designation of Fireman's Park to the Historic Landmarks and Preservation Commission for review. I know there were some questions that had come up when this was turned back, and so I guess looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion by Alder
I'll
Rosted.
second.
Second by Alder Roque. Discussion. Do you have a comment? Okay. Alder Rosted.
Looking through it, page 38 and page 39. I think the depiction drawing is not correct, on page 39. I don't think it was drug over the pavilion. That's across Park Ave. And the red set outline is pavilion.
Yeah, that's the formatting of putting this document into the Muni code. It sometimes
Oh.
messes up graphics.
Okay. And then there was concern from one alder with discussion. This just ties to the buildings, correct? It doesn't tie to the Circle Drive and doesn't hamper future park improvement to the plan that we already have adopted?
It only affects the contributing structures.
Just structures?
So, yep, so that'd be the wall, the pavilion, and the rest haven.
Perfect, thank you.
As designated within that boundary.
Is there any other discussion? Alder Finkler?
This is already recognized at the state level, right?
Correct.
What kind of conflict would we have between the two? And who is like the ultimate decider? So if this were to go through, let's say we need to do something to the pavilion and we want to do it one way, the state wants to do it another way, like who wins?
So prior to going to the state, any projects, if the designation goes through, would have to go through the Historic Preservation Commission through receiving a certificate of appropriateness, and then it would go to the State Historical Society or the State Historical Preservation Office, and then those two would have to match.
But if they don't agree with us, then what?
I'd have to look out into that if there's conflicts between certificate of appropriateness and SHPO. Unless you guys.
Joe, it's not my
Oh, I'm
meeting,
sorry.
but he wants to speak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Brian is here, so come on up, Brian. Brian, you might have to, unless you know where the thing is. Not yet.
Just press the
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Okay, sorry. So I think what I'd like, we would be working, we work hand in hand with the State Historic Preservation Office. So I wouldn't necessarily think of it as like one would be superseding the other. We would be working with them to make sure that whatever decisions we were making from a COA standpoint would be in line with what they would recommend as well.
Okay. And that happens up front when you guys are doing your process, then that happens, so then when it gets sent to them, it's pretty much just a rubber stamp.
Correct, yeah. So we would work closely with them to, figure out if there was any kind of concerns that they would have, and then we would make sure that, because our goal would be to approach everything in kind of an equitable, way in which we're making the same kinds of decisions, regardless of which building it is, so.
I'm sorry, just looking at this. Just I guess a comment from me is that, say, has it ever happened where the state or federal have pulled a designation? And, well, you gotta come up. Just like if the local is like another, it's an added layer.
It
I was
is.
just curious if
So-
there's ever been a,
Yeah, the state has pulled designation when the building has been relocated. So you had the first Republican Party office, I believe, in Ripon, and the city moved it for an event, and they lost their designation. So I don't anticipate anybody picking up the pavilion or the Rest Haven and moving it, but that's the case that I'm aware of where they
Okay.
did lose their designation.
Might need a ballroom.
all right. Any other questions regarding this? Okay, seeing none, then all in favor of approving to send the application?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. All right. let's see, 7 is off. Next would be to consider and take action on the recreation program fee policy.
Motion to approve with the correction or carryover from C.O.W, the refund to match the previously adopted refund policy.
Second.
I feel like we're missing something. Was that the
Oh.
only thing?
No, wasn't there verbiage about goals?
Oh, goals. You wanted after 110% goals.
Add goals to cost recovery.
Yeah.
Add that to the motion, please.
I'll add that to the second too.
Let me know when you're ready. Okay. All right, then any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Then next would be to consider and take action on the proposal from the Columbus Chamber Choir.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Rosted. Any further discussion on this?
Just want to state into the record that I will be abstaining on this as a member of the choir.
Okay. Then all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And 1 abstention. Okay, then next would be to consider and take action on claims in the amount of $367,309.06.
Move to pay the claims.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Roki, second by Alder Reed. Any discussion on the claims? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Fuller.
Aye.
Rosted.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Finkler.
Aye.
Rolke.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Okay. Reports?
I have no report this evening.
Okay. Susan is attending a clerk's conference, and she did give me some information to pass along. So we have 3,291 registered voters in the city of Columbus. On election day, we registered 33 voters. 1,154 residents voted for a percentage of 34.72%. I was rather surprised. I thought that was a great number. So, and her comment was, we were trying to think of the right word. She said civility. I thought camaraderie, but besides whatever it is, the people that were coming through, the interaction was fantastic. It was a good day, and I'm sure Molly would agree. So,
Yes, I
Joe,
definitely agree. It was a great
Chief
day.
Weiner wanted to make some comments here.
oh, Chief, you have some comments?
Just a couple of things, real short and sweet. Some follow-up about National Night Out. I just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody that came, everybody that was part of it. This year, I think, was the biggest year yet, and a lot of work and a lot of effort goes into that by a lot of people. Every department essentially in the city here was involved in that, so in one way, shape, or form. So it was a very, very good event. A couple of mentions I want to make to other organizations, and it won't be all of them, and they're not any less important, but I especially want to thank the Marine Corps League for doing the grilling again. That's an outstanding group of volunteers who, when I called Mr. Holloway probably 2 months ago to make sure that they were willing to do that again, it was a resoundingly absolutely. And they got here probably 10 a.m., and I think they didn't leave till the event was almost over. So they put in a lot of work. It was a little warm that day. I was more stressing out whether it was going to rain or not. My blood pressure was a little high that day. But the event ended up going really well. Also, a couple thank yous to the Cornerstone Club of Alba. They're the organization that served the food inside the concession stand. That's the 3rd or 4th year or more that they've helped us, and that's outstanding because I'm trying to free our people up to mingle and interact with the community, because that's what the event is really about. Also, a thank you to Matt. He coordinated some of the kids in the rec program and from the pool to help staff some of the rides and some of the games, which is crucial again, because if we're staffing it, then we're not moving around and interacting with people. Also want to thank the business community and some citizens that made donations to make this event possible. It's an expensive event. Every penny of it was paid for by donations. And this year, as with every year previously, we have monies that we can roll over to next year, and we're already looking at booking some of the things that we had this year. New this year, I think the biggest hits were the petting zoo was a huge hit. It really was. So we're definitely going to try to book him already for next year because that was really something new this year, and I got lots and lots and lots of positive comments about that. The fire demo, for those that happen to see that, on that little mock structure when they open the door and close the door to see what it does to a fire. I mean, I'm one that a visual aid is a great thing for me instead of just reading it, and that really spoke volumes. The taser demo was a huge hit. Sergeant Knoll is glad she did it. She won't be in line to do it again anytime soon. Something she wanted to experience, so it's off her bucket list.
Yep. I thanked her. I saw her last weekend or a couple weeks ago, and just thanked her for doing that. It was awesome.
There were a lot of people that came up to the pavilion to witness that, and I think it's good because we want to be transparent in what a use of force of a taser does and what it doesn't do. So that was a pretty good example. That's all I have for a really National Night Out. I'm in the final stages of drafting a ordinance that we talked about for the scooters, the bikes, helmets, those types of things. So in the next couple of days, I should have that sent to Paul for his review. Pretty straightforward. I modeled it after some of the other communities that I got, so I didn't reinvent the wheel. I just tweaked it and interjected this department or this community to that community. So I think the end work product is going to be pretty straightforward and pretty understandable. The only thing that I'm really struggling with is I know there were conversations about downtown and letting bikes and scooters and stuff remain downtown instead of pushing them into the street, and then conversations about the speed limit of 5 miles an hour. At first, that sounds like a great idea, but I have a UTV, and actually, I drove that on my street at 5 miles an hour, and I don't know if you can keep a bike upright or a scooter upright at 5 miles an hour, because that's crawling. So we can talk about it at that meeting, but we have some other ideas in your mind of how we can word it about a way to control the speed downtown. And that's all I have. Thank you for all your time tonight.
I just have one comment
Yes.
on that actually, and I thought about this today when I was by Camp Randall, and it just had signs up there that was like a walking zone, like you walk your scooter, you walk your bike, those types of things. I don't know if that would be helpful.
That was
And-
actually one of my ideas that I was going to bring forward is that, bikes must be walked downtown or something like that. And we'd obviously have to post signage because, like everyone else, I've seen some crazy bike and some crazy scooter riding downtown that just, we want to try to prevent something. We're not trying to be restrictive. This isn't about tickets or revenue. It's about safety and it's about kids.
I'm actually surprised that the ramp by the flower shop across the street from the police department, that hasn't been utilized more.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, as a kid, my age.
Now there's going to be one of those challenges on social media. How high can you get up the ramp across from the police department? But again, thank you.
Don't do what I did as a kid.
All right, thank you for your time.
Right. I just have a couple of things to my report. Last Wednesday was a concert in the park. Was a great turnout, beautiful night, huge crowd. I know Brian Nagel had taken a count, and he was over 200 people that had showed up. So it was a very good night. Well, local boy too. So, and then I attended the Columbus Historical Society's open house. That was a great turnout. So I encourage everybody to get over there and check it out. John Marks was inside the popcorn wagon dressed as George Hasey. When I first saw it, I thought it was a mannequin because he wasn't moving. And then Randy Keene took a picture of George's picture in John standing there, and the resemblance is remarkable. So, but yeah, by all means, get over and check it out. They did a beautiful job with that, with their facilities. So. And with that, then, I would look for a motion to convene to close session per 19.851G to confer with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved with.
So move.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Lawson. Discussion before going into closed session. Hearing none, roll call.
Finkler.
Aye.
Lawson.
Aye.
Reed.
Aye.
Rolke.
Aye.
Fuller.
Aye.
Crosset.
Aye.
Okay, and the only thing, we will reconvene to open session, but only to adjourn, so.
And it won't be televised, right?
And it won't be televised.